Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Circle of the Earth Fellowship, and of course, this is the roundtable we do on Saturdays. We do our special episodes and our interviews, stuff like that. We're going to be doing on Fridays, and we're continuing the Peace Seeker series on Sundays with the Book of Enoch. So, if you're interested in hearing the Book of Enoch read, check that out tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. But tonight we are having a roundtable episode, and that will be on giant trees. So maybe you've heard this topic, maybe you haven't. But regardless, we're gonna talk about it, and maybe you'll get a little gravy and want to do some digging yourselves. But before we get into the topic, as always, let's go ahead and say hello to all of those who are on the panel. And please, for those who are in chat, please give us audio checks. If it sounds like someone is low or too high, please let us know so we can adjust that for the whole stream. But yeah, let's say hellos. We got our brother Robert up first. Welcome, brother. Good to see you. Shabbat shalom. Yep. Marsha woke up late from a nap, and she has some family over, so she's just going to be chilling in the chat, I think. Sweet. Well, glad to have you along for the ride. And we'll jump over to our brother Kyle. Welcome, brother. How are you doing? Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. 1 second. I have to change something up. I apologize, everyone. That's exactly why I want y'all to do audio checks so I don't go on forever. Okay. Let me pull. Okay. Sweet. That was totally my fault. I apologize. Robert, if you want to give it another swing at it, I appreciate it, and I apologize.
Okay. How about now? I mean, how much was it? 2 minutes or before they can react to that? But anyhow, um, yeah, as far as the subject matter, yes. So, like I said, I don't know a whole lot about the giant trees subject matter. But I am interested to hear what you all have to say about that.
Nice.
So,
Well,
there you
again, welcome to the ride. I hope it's an interesting journey for you, and we'll thank you for doing that again. We'll jump over back to Kyle. Welcome, brother. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom, yeah. I think it might be a Sabbath. I don't know. Shavuot,
Uh,
depending on what calendar you're following.
yeah.
So, yeah. So, giant trees are awesome. I've always loved the concept of them since I was a kid, but I thought any idea of them were fantastical, obviously before probably coming into enclosed cosmology. I think people may take it a little too far sometimes, but I think there's some pretty good evidence that there were some substantially big trees out there.
Yeah, it definitely seems so. Now, what does it really matter in our lives? Fun sometimes. We've been talking about a lot of darker subjects, right? This is kind of a lighter subject. It's a more speculative, topic for sure, and it definitely, people aren't saying, giant trees are coming to get you, so it's not like a black pill subject. But I think it's fun. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. And I think it lines up with what we're going to be talking about in the coming episodes. So, yeah. And one of the people that was most stoked about it, he said, "Hey, I'm not going to share a whole bunch of stuff via links, but I got a lot to talk about. I got a lot of commentary to provide." And that's our dear brother Frankie B. Welcome, brother. Good to see you.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Yeah. The juice is in the root, baby. The giant tree has a giant root. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, me and Vader had a good time last night. It was a good watching the debate, watching the debacle of a debate. But we made fun out of it, right, Vader?
Oh, dude, I was definitely
Yeah, we
laughing
had a
at
lot of
it.
laughs.
Yeah, it was that pastor Jonathan Kelly Shelley. He is one interesting cookie. I wouldn't say unique because he's pretty much just a Baptist cut. He just went to probably seminary school and learned what the other people learned before they learned it from the person who taught them. So.
Yeah, and the chat made Witsit blush for the first time I've ever seen that. So that was funny.
Yeah, Big Bear. Big Bear was definitely an awesome element in that conversation.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh,
He made the whole show. It was good having him moderate. Yeah, it wasn't dry. It was funny. It was good.
yeah. Yeah. So if y'all haven't checked that out, definitely check it out. It was at least interesting to laugh at or funny to mock. Sweet. All right. So giant trees. Oops. Give me 1 second. Fix that. Okay. So giant trees. Trees of enormous size are found not only within secular history and within the many mythos of many different cultures, but also within scripture and so-called apocrypha. Interesting enough, there is evidence of these trees if you take a closer look at some of the unique rock formations in various locations around the realm. As as we explore the tales and depictions of these trees within history and the different cultures that held them and compare that to the seemingly physical evidence that is available, we might come to the conclusion that these creations indeed existed. Do you think the giant trees could have existed, and where are they now? Join us as we discuss the topic of giant trees and its insignificant implications for our and future generations' lives. Maybe not, and we'll kind of talk about that more close to the end. But sweet. So, why are we talking about this? Well, again, this is a fun topic, guys. It's something that we can speculate on. I don't think it will cause a divide one way or the other. It's not something like pre-programming or atoms and nukes or some of these other kind of topics that we've been covering, here within season 2 so far. It's more of a fun, light topic that doesn't really have much to do with us. In ways, in one way, I would say it's kind of important. Is to kind of God's people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? They perish for a lack of knowledge. So I think it's interesting to look out there into history, into the different cultures, and see what there is to offer about this. And definitely with the physical evidence, it's show evidence episode 21, giant trees, and that's what we're really going to focus on. A lot of people have heard of the North mythology and Asgard and the tree of life and all of that stuff, and that's definitely a part of what we're talking about. But I really want to hone in on just the visual aspect, the visual and physical evidence of this, because at the very least, you're gonna probably come away being like, well, that really does look like that thing. And whether you believe there was one giant trees or not, doesn't matter. No. Is it integral to your salvation? Obviously not. But it's a fun little light episode to talk about. So sweet. All right. Well, Frankie B, do you want to provide some commentary before we get into it, or do you want me to just get into it and start showing some videos?
Yeah, start showing some videos and then I'll comment on them. Did you hear me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're gonna pop this one up and watch a handful of minutes from this. So let me bring it up for y'all so y'all can see it. Let's go ahead and drop off a camera just so it hopefully will help with the buffering issues. Though most of these are from BitChute, so hopefully we don't have any issues. Sweet. All right, well, let's go ahead and start playing. Like, even that, okay, so these aren't necessarily what we talk. These are really big trees. No one's saying that, and a lot of people have seen pictures of the redwood forest, have seen pictures like these with men sitting next to these huge trees. But what I really want you to kind of focus on, at least in this part, is look at what you're looking at. You have this multi-layered thing that they're sitting on. That very much so, if you didn't know that was a tree, you could be like, if you cut it off, let's say you can see my mouse here. If you cut this picture off right here, and you just showed someone this picture, they would not say that is a tree that they're sitting on. That is a hill that they're sitting on. Yet, because we know that it's a tree, think about that. So, but let's keep chugging. Okay, sorry about the super weird music.
That it really is weird.
I kind of almost I'm gonna actually lower the volume so we don't all have to dare that.
You're not gonna get copy strike from Indian music, are you?
No, I doubt it. I guess we'll see. Like that right there, man. Like that 100% to me looks like a tree stump. And we're going to be talking these formations right here. These formations.
And that's in a national park too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these are all across. We're going to see tons of pictures like this. But
that's in a reserved area that you're not allowed to go. Well, you can go there, but you can't do any excavation or any kind of digging, right?
Yeah, it would be. And things like this are typically within national parks, and yeah, you don't just have free access to build and construct and renovate and excavate, etc. But yeah, let's keep going.
I think we can mute the music too.
I don't know if you can see, but that's a person right there and right there. These are huge structures. Now, they say this is... Look at these straight lines, guys. It's like... They say this is just rock, and we'll get into that a little bit more later from their perspective. But yeah, you got all these people climbing these very crafted excuse me, crafted looking, structures. Yeah, the comparisons of it. Yeah, and all that bits of the bark that have fallen off as it died. Right, there was nothing separating. Eventually, air got in between it, and it shed it off. And yeah, very interesting. Oops. This is a good place to stop real quick and kind of do some dialogue on it. Now, if for those who don't know, these right here are what's referred to in the scientific community as basalt columns. Now, they say these structures are caused by lava being excreted through tight pores, basically on the crust of the earth, resulting in these geometric shapes that you're seeing all before you. Now, I personally don't subscribe to that. Like it was just previously showing you, it was showing you a cell wall of a tree. And many plants have these very such cell walls. And I just think that it's very interesting on, what I think is interesting in particular is their description of what these are and how illogical that makes compared to kind of what we're talking about here. Any thoughts from those on the panel?
I think it's kind of strange they say these like got pushed through pores and didn't, was it liquid at that time and was like were pushed through as columns and then solidified that way. I mean, it's just kind of it begs the question, how these things, you know, how you could actually prove any of this came out of liquid magma and then solidified. No one's ever seen lava behave that way. No one can watch like something cool inform that. Also, you can see like um, oils, like coconut oil. You can heat that and cool it, and it'll form hexagonal structures. But I've never seen that with liquid lava. It just has the tendency to be molten and go and move like water. So the explanation for them is just kind of lame, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's so lame because it really is illogical, and it's like, how are these all then been formed at the same time? Like, are you saying each one was like a pore, like each of these little areas was where it was being pushed out, but they were just all being pushed out at the same time, in which they grew in these huge columns as a it just it really doesn't make sense from their point, and I think that is, at least to me, a good indication that they're lying about something. And then again, with the previous mentioned evidence, included, I think it is a good piece of evidence. I just want to make sure there was there was nothing left in that video I wanted to share. But here, let's pop this one open and let's watch this.
So I want to show you something. I want you to look at this really close, okay? And remember, this is a small version. I want you to look at this. And you come up here. Everything I've been showing you, in all my videos, not just this one, okay? And here's the center, okay? It's a tight radius, and it gets bigger as it goes out. The bigger it is, the flatter it's going to be in a distance around the radius. I mean, the circumference of it. Okay? And you see the rings here. But you gotta look at this like in a 3D type of view, okay? Not looking down at a stump. Okay? Imagine this right here laid down flat. I'll put a picture in here again of a better example than what I have to show you here. You imagine them stumps I've been showing you laying sideways, okay? Instead of upright. You understand that this is not the color. This is all just discolored from the weather and the elements. So this is what you see. So my daughter peeled a piece of this off. You know, it's deceiving because it's got moss.
Okay, I want to stop real quick and just look at this. Now, before you were seeing this and before you get like a bigger picture, doesn't this just look like a big stone, guys? Robert, don't you think this just looks like a big stone, like if you're running a trail, it's just a big pile of rocks?
From this angle, it looks like, well, if you move that little plate there up above there, and you can see it almost looks like wood underneath that thing.
Yeah, but let's
Like
take that
slate.
part
If
away.
It's not a
But
slate
if we didn't
design.
know we were big trees, yeah, you would say this was just
You would say this
a
is
piece
a
of
rock.
rock.
But I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, and he's going to give you a view of what he a better view of what he's
All these
standing
organisms living on
on. And
it.
that is
I just want you to
big
look at this.
piece of tree.
Okay?
Yeah, look at that. Looks like a tree. Looks like, just in a bigger scale.
So let's go over here. Showing you how everything's buried.
Yeah, look at all those. Look at all those logs.
If that stump was laying on end that I just showed you, it would be the exact same thing, okay?
Okay,
Yeah.
They have a video out.
Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
I can't unsee it now, what he's talking about with the layering, the shelving, how it breaks apart, and I mean, it resembles wood. The way when wood just gets all, dry rotted and breaks apart, I mean, yeah, I see what he's talking about.
Yeah,
Also, in petrified, it's very very similar. Just
Thereof.
we know petrified wood is hard as a rock. It is rock, and it's not just rock. It's different crystals and minerals. It's crazy. So yeah.
and like remember we showed that the London hammer and the cowboy's boot, whatever that was called, where it basically showed how they found these things, embedded in rock. And so in my brother, he went to, I don't remember where it was, but he went to some old ghost town, some old mining town that was only like 100 years old, and he found these huge chunks of petrified wood. So it's like, the rate in which petrified wood actually happens is pretty quick. And not only that,
Yeah.
it's like exactly like you said, you look at the geometry of these items, the way that they're, let's call it created, and then a, a dead stump, and these look exactly the same. They even have the same moss and stuff growing on them, the same
Right.
colors.
And I would say maybe, maybe there's a difference between these rocks and, some of the massive granite rocks we find that don't break off in shelves like what would be found like in the Rocky Mountains, most of those rocks. Maybe, I obviously believe there is a difference between mountains and petrified trees. And so I'm just kind of throwing it out there, where would you maybe delineate it? Because, I've got a lot of rocks out here, and most of them, depending on the region, don't break apart like this unless, it's more of the red rocks. A lot of
Yeah,
them
and
are
I
probably
think
old.
I think that's a super interesting point, or a very important point, is there is a total delineation. I think in this topic, it's easy to go too far with it. Now we are totally going to speculate, but we're going to tell you we're speculating, right? We're not going to be giving you this information as if it's fact, but we're going to give you evidence. We're going to show it to you. You make of it what you want. But that being said, yeah, there is a delineation, at least for me, that there is a difference between these giant trees that seemingly were cut down or destroyed in the flood, whatever it is, and then your created earth mountains. So,
Yeah.
not
So
all mountains are made from giant trees.
Right.
yeah. Um. So well, first of all, Frankie, if you're not talking, you might need to mute your mic. Um. But now right here, I can totally see especially the size of trees that we have today. You know, like in California and whatnot. I can totally see this being a bunch of trees that all fell and large trees and got fossilized, or petrified, or what do you want to call it, but fossilized.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they all being stacked together, all smushed together when they went through that process.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think this is what I kind of want to show is we looked at the stump and we see the similarities from that to that. And then from that previous video, we saw large scale of that where you have these huge straight columns, which make no sense. Where else can you find, mountains? And again, that delineations that look like that, or that is created like that.
And that's
They don't.
it's one of their own rules that like um that that code of symmetry is found within the living world. It's not necessary. Although I kind of disagree because we have the same creator who created all this, so his fingerprint can be everywhere. But as far as like do rocks just by natural weather and erosion and earthquakes form perfect symmetrical patterns and through heat and what comes out of the ground is magma, and then erosion from that as it cools, and whatever happens form perfect, these symmetrical patterns. No, they say, you only find that in complex nature, where you find, other complex living organisms. Well, we're seeing that with supposed rocks here. So which is it?
Yeah, exactly. And this is just the beginning of our of showing these type of things. So, yeah, let's keep going, and we'll talk about it more.
I don't know, 8 or 9 children, young adults, passing a ball around, and they're supposed to count how many times the white shirts pass the ball around. And that's the same thing that goes on with the indoctrination and the lies of this world.
That looks like wood stacked up right there that just turned into petrified.
So we're going to travel down this road here and see what we can find. So hold on. Up and take characteristics. See all the deep grooves in it. This is not petrified. Okay? Just remember that. And you come over here. This is one massive branch that's laid down. And it's all discolored, but I've showed you yesterday in many of my other videos. That's undeniable.
I feel like if you showed a picture of someone, if you could kind of like do some photo editing, like you could convince someone that this is literally an old log right here. That's literally what it looks like.
Yeah, you don't even have to do any photo editing. You just show that to someone and say, "Is that a log?" They'll tell you, "Yeah, you can see the wood right there. That's not fully dry rotted. You can see the moss growing on it. Yeah, that's a log." I mean, yeah, I'd be persuaded. So
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Robert? Don't you think this right here looks like an old log that maybe is on the bottom of the pile for too long?
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
If you have eyes to see. Okay? Okay, we're going to all these bands. Okay, that what I just showed you, that piece over there. This is the same exact thing. We're gonna go back over there. Hold on. This piece right here.
Really shout out to this guy. I think he picked such great examples. Like he literally just pulled a piece off and then is showing you, a piece that looks exactly like it.
It fell off of there, just like this piece did. This is the exact same thing as that over there, okay? And you look at it again. I told you about all the deep grooves and how they get them deep grooves. You see the way it breaks apart from the top, okay? This is the exact same thing. Right here, you see the deep grooves, and they get that because they split off from the top. That's the same thing as over there, but it's laid down. Okay?
Yeah, so it's more the same, but like look at these masses. Like, okay, those small ones, okay, but these are the same. We're looking at the same thing. And that's like he's saying, it's just a small piece, but the way that these break down like a tree, not like rock. Yeah.
So
Sweet.
from what I understand on how the fossils are made, and they don't take millions of years, is they do need to be compressed along with soil, and the minerals replace the whatever the cells are,
carbon.
whether it be bone or the carbon. So the minerals replace the carbon. So these guys must have been formed, and then at some point, a lot of the topsoil must have got washed away to expose them.
Yeah, it could have been like it could have been like the worldwide flood destroyed them and covered them, and then over the years, the rainwater, a natural erosion has led us for them to be visible. It's one idea for sure. Any thoughts there, Frankie B?
Nah, that's a good video though. But yeah, and that looks like another national park, right?
What I have up here on the screen right now?
What you have up on the screen and what that guy was in.
I'm not sure where that guy was. It didn't say, but yeah. Here's a almost 5-minute video. Let's check this out.
Thanks for joining me. Hope you're doing well. We should know by now that mountains and plateaus are not rock formations, but the stumps of giant trees that were cut down. They were silica-based, not carbon-based like today's trees. Watch the video No Forests on Flat Earth if you haven't yet explored this topic. Silicon Valley is what pushes all technology today, and it gets its name because silicone is great at storing and processing information. Computer chips are made from silicone, and this is why they're able to hold so much information. Quartz is a silicate made of pure silica, and many crystals used in healing and New Age circles today are variations of quartz. Clear quartz is known as the master healer and can unlock psychic abilities. So much of what we're digging up as far as crystals are actually the remnants of these giant silica-based trees. In James Cameron's Avatar, which is actually a history of our not-so-distant past, the natives communicated with these spectacular trees and were given divine information. Imagine the information a tree could hold made of silica. All of these trees extended from the Tree of Life at the center of our plane by a vast root system. It was one giant organism. What we think to be a cave system is actually an old root system. These trees were huge, and so were their roots. Side by side, a carbon-based root system is strikingly similar to the cave systems, the silica-based roots. Gems and crystals are most abundant in caves. As we know, trees have a complex root system where they're able to communicate with one another. Trees can transport carbon dioxide, water, and other hidden information we can't detect with our senses through their root systems.
Okay, we're going to come back to this video. I wanted to play it up till there. And so let me shuffle this down towards here. And we're going to check this video out. There's a reason why I do it, but let's keep going.
Last real trees died millions of years ago. Hearing this, most rational people would think I'm insane. We've all been in a forest. We've all seen 60, even 70-foot trees, but these are much different from the real trees that lived ages ago. In the distant past, trees reached gigantic heights of several miles. And we know this because we've found giant petrified stumps, like the Devil's Tower in Wyoming. The similarity between a tree stump and this mountain is astonishing. According to Wikipedia, Devil's Tower was formed from a magma intrusion, but there's certainly a big difference between verified magma formations and this mountain. Look at its geological cross-section. Does it make sense for magma to flow upward in this trajectory? To me, personally, it doesn't. There are simply 100 peculiarities that add up when it comes to this formation. Doesn't this look like a cut-down tree to you? Looks alone don't prove anything. It would have been much better if there were other similar stumps to examine. In that regard, we're very lucky because there isn't just one mountain or hill that looks like a giant petrified tree stump. There are thousands. Hundreds of giant trees were cut down in the 1900s, yet they look like small bushes compared to the ancient trees that I'm about to show you. Millions of years ago, trees used to reach the astonishing height of several miles. This is
Of course, he's a heliocentric minded person. He believes in the whole millions of billions of years things. But he still provides some interesting images as well as some information, so we'll keep chugging.
Isn't something mainstream academia accepts, but we will share the compelling evidence in this video. The last remnants of the giant trees were all cut down in the 19th and 20th centuries. These 300-foot sequoias are fairly small in comparison to the trees that lived during the Jurassic. Millions of years ago, Earth's atmosphere had much higher oxygen levels than today. This high oxygen concentration allowed plants and animals, including dinosaurs, to grow much larger. We call the petrified remnants of this distant past fossils. Practically anything can fossilize. Frogs, dinosaurs, and even trees can turn to stone under the right conditions. There are thousands of examples of normal-sized fossilized trees. Scientists call them petrified forests, and you can find them on all continents. If dinosaurs and mammals were so much bigger back then, it is only normal for trees to be huge too. Some of the petrified tree stumps we found are gigantic, so big that there's a good chance that many of the hills and mountains we know today might have been trees millions of years ago. Take a look at these beautiful stumps. Aside from picture comparisons, you would think there is zero evidence to support this crazy theory. But there's a lot more evidence than just pictures. The cross-section of most plant cells is a complex hexagonal shape. When these cells grow, they elongate in one direction. In the case of a tree, they grow vertically. This means the hexagonal structure of giant trees would be vertical hexagons. This is a light micrograph of a tree stem. Generally, in the middle of the tree stems, we observe hexagonal structures. The tiny hexagons are the most robust part of the tree, and they look exactly like the rocky hexagonal sections. These might not be lava formations as some mainstream scientists believe. They are petrified hexagon sections of a former giant tree. On the left, we see the hexagonal structures that were once in the middle of a tree's stem. On the right, we see cured lava. How can scientists compare the two and deem them identical?
This guy's dripping the gravy minus the millions of billions of years.
After millions of years, this is what remains of these petrified trees. Could it be that the smaller outer structures have been turned to dust, but the hexagon core remains? It's entirely possible, since we know that hexagons are one of nature's most resilient building blocks. Honeycombs, snowflakes, and most cell structures are all hexagonal for a reason. A hexagon is very hard to destroy, especially when it neighbors tightly with other similar forms. Mainstream academics suggest that the two rocks were formed by the same process. Do you think this is what really happened? I don't. If this really was a tree, we can easily calculate how tall the tree was. There's an average correlation between the tree's diameter and its height. This formula is relevant for most species. The Devil's Tower's diameter is close to 300 meters, which means by using the formula, we get an estimated height of almost 4 miles. I know that sounds unbelievable. That's why mainstream scientists have rejected this hypothesis and have labeled all of these formations as results of lava and volcanic explosions. But I smell something fishy. Look how volcanoes erupt and what happens after the lava cures. Are we to believe that this miraculously turns into that? Hexagonal structures aren't a result of chaos. They aren't a result of chaotic eruptions. They're a result of years of organic growth. And if these are in fact trees, we would see a wide variety of tree stumps, right? Some would have been cut out, others broken or fallen, or even gotten uprooted by storms or cataclysms. But if that were the case, we would find rocks resembling broken trees, right? Well, what we found doesn't just resemble broken trees, they are identical giant copies, thousands of them. Many of these stumps look as if they'd been broken or torn. Some look like they've fallen over. If this hypothesis held any truth, perhaps ancient scripture or even older languages would hint at this in any way. In that line of thought, I recently discovered that Slavic languages have one of the oldest roots on the
Okay, before we get into this gravy, because this is actually real gravy, I don't know if y'all have ever seen this video, have heard this dude, but what he's about to say is so amazing. But again, before we get into that, again, he showed all these different mountains, and you have to at least, if you're intellectually honest, you have to see those look really similar. Now, just because they look similar, again, it doesn't mean that they are indeed, trees. Like Kyle said before, right? He said, we know that God is the creator of all of it, right? So having these similar looking things, within all creation makes sense. What's really interesting is also, like, I want to bring up to y'all real quick, is what they say mountains are. From my understanding, mountains are where tectonic plates have smashed into each other and kind of pushed against each other into making these tall things. What is y'all's understanding of what mountains are? Is it that or something different? I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts.
So a lot of the mountains that I've seen, aside from these ones they're showing here now, a lot of them do look like they could be where, like you said, the tectonic plates, for whatever reason, got squished and pushed and got distorted. So they're horizontal, they're vertical or at an angle. And you can see the layers, and of course, the million-year-old people would say that that was layers of rock, but I've seen where like Mount St. Helens created those layers in just a matter of days.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I know that these what they're showing here, the Devil's Tower. Yeah, my mind wants to say no way, that there was not no tree that big. That's not a tree. But then I also look at like, what could it be? What could cause that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just weird. It's definitely strange.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Robert. Where it's like, I think of some that, I'm like, yeah, but that's like a mountain range. That's the Rocky Mountains. It's a whole range. But then I look enough of these, and I'm like, yeah, that looks like a broken tree trunk. Um, but I will say, I think that most of all the formations of mountains we have are probably like the larger ones that are here. I'll say it like this: the big mountain ranges that we have on the plane of this earth have probably existed since the beginning of creation, when the Father formed everything and brought it all together. I'm assuming he made topography across the face of the earth, mountains included, and even like Mount Sinai. I don't necessarily believe that's a tree trunk, but maybe it is. I haven't really thought about it. Um, that was my opinion, that he made it this way, but there are other variables, like the flood came and changed the whole topography once again, and maybe there was breaking up of the earth during certain times, and when the giants were roaming the earth, maybe there was certain cataclysm that was done then that changed the topography of the earth. So it just, I don't know. I'm kind of torn between whether, what's a mountain and what could be a giant tree at this point. There's uh, lot of good evidence that some of these mountains are trees.
Yeah, and one thing I want to, it's kind of parallel topic, but is with the giant trees and all that, um, you know, looking in Enoch and especially, we also are talking about Wendy brought up that these could be giant buildings and giant or titans, right? There are some interesting things like that, as well as just the cultural representations in Greece and other cultures where we have these huge, massive humanoid things. And we're kind of jumping. I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit, but this is why I wanted to do this first and then lead into Nephilim and giants, is because I think we kind of talk about these things, like if you're a big dude, you need like a big house and you need big trees and so but we'll kind of get into that more next episode. We'll tip our toes in it in this episode, but yeah.
Well, I got a couple things.
Yeah,
So some of the trees look like they were chopped down or cut off. Some of them look like they were just destroyed from the flood and the stump was left. You know what I mean? And I have a theory, because they lie about everything, that possibly Adam and Eve were somewhat giants. They were larger in stature than we are. And because they say that, everything, giants this, there was giants in the... I really think they lie about everything. I think our original creation, everything was bigger. And then after the flood, and the firmament changed, and the atmosphere changed, I think everything got smaller. Kenneth Hovind does a thing on that too, how it was more pressurized under the firmament. There was a different type of, and everything was bigger. They were stronger. They were faster. That's why they lived 1,000 years, because it was a different. It was a perfectly created environment.
So this is what's kind of interesting, and I'm going to draw back to that little video that I started playing, and I'm like, okay, I'm stopping it here. We'll come back to it. And in that video, he briefly talked about that all of these giant trees. Now, this is one line of thinking that it was a part of God's creation, and I'm not saying it's not. But what's kind of interesting, if you kind of think about it, if the New Jerusalem was there on Earth, that's where the Tree of Life would be, right? And we're talking about a structure that is, 1,300 miles tall, right? It could hold in a 4-mile tall tree, right? Very easily. And so I think that's really interesting that then if that left during the time of the flood, that would also cause all those other trees to basically shut down and die, right? And so maybe some of them, you're right, were cut down. Maybe some of them were
destroyed in the flood.
Flood.
Yeah, just ripped apart, because it was the way the Bible describes it. The water rushed up so fast. You know what I mean?
And so
it came down, and it came out from the earth.
Yeah, and I actually
and
have
that pressure would rip everything apart. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it would cause devastation for sure. What I was gonna say is I almost kind of sometimes think the Pangea kind of idea is interesting, because if you look at the parts where there is separation, those are the deepest parts, like the Marianas Trench as an example. If that's where the water came cutting up, how much land it would kind of delete in between those areas, and how they kind of look like puzzle pieces. I'm not saying I believe that. It's, again, total speculation. But again,
right.
a little bit more parallel thinking. Any final thoughts before we get into this next gravy he's about to share?
No, go ahead.
All right, let's get into. Oh, this is good. This is about the language of it.
Planet. They date back way before modern civilization. Many secrets lie within the roots and origins of Slavic languages. Luckily, I speak Bulgarian and some Russian, and when it comes to trees, in most Slavic languages, tree is dervo, derevo. Derevenost or drevnost means ancient times, the ancient times. Drevnost, as in the time where there were trees, big trees.
Ancient tree. Dude, ancient tree. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, just keep going.
Like the ones I showed you. This is where the word ancient comes from in these languages. It comes from the word tree. Getting back to mythology, in Nordic mythology, there was a large tree called Yggdrasil. So large that it connects 9 worlds within its branches. Various scriptures, including the Quran, the Bible, and even Babylonian texts, mention the Tree of Life. It is enormous and interconnects all life on earth. In Hindu philosophy, there is the Tree of Jiva and Atman. In Greek mythology, there is the Hesperides golden apple. All of these are so big that today we couldn't quite imagine their size. Let's go back to some scripture from the Bible.
Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches, a shadowing shroud and a high stature. His top was among the thick boughs. The waters made him great. The deep set him up on high with her rivers running round about his plants, and sent her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. And strangers, the terrible of the nations, have cut him off, and have left him. Upon the mountains, and in all the valleys, his branches are fallen, and all the rivers break his boughs of the land, and all the people of the earth are gone down from his shadow, and have left him.
Across many cultures, there are hundreds of mentions of enormous trees, taller than mountains. But let's go over a more specific, scientific explanation of whether this is possible and how it could occur on our planet.
Oh, our planet!
For me, the problem with these giant-looking tree stumps is they don't just look a little bit like tree stumps, they look exactly like tree stumps. And that, combined with the fact that dirt is missing all around them, makes it very hard to believe that some of these are just accidents of nature. So how did they petrify? Petrified wood forms when fallen trees get buried under mud or dirt really quickly. This stops them from decaying. The less organic the material that buries them, the better. So imagine a large volcano erupts. The cataclysms that follow tear down the trees, and they get piled over with ash. Over a long time, water full of minerals like silica seeps through the dirt and into the buried wood. These minerals slowly replace the tree's original material, turning it into stone, while keeping its shape, including the tree rings.
That was an
and the
interesting
bark texture.
looking tree.
In smaller and scientifically verified petrified forests, you can find lots of stone wood. You can visit the Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona, for example. Scientists noticed how similar some mountains are to petrified trees. Some believe much larger trees existed before a worldwide cataclysm wiped them out, but most are reluctant to look deeper into this theory because of how absurd it sounds to the average person, like you and me. Ancient trees had a height of several miles. The most rational argument I've heard against this theory is, where did all the rock go? If these trees were so big, how did their huge rock stems disappear? Well, they didn't. They turned into soil because not the whole tree was covered in ash. This means only parts of the tree petrified. These trees were gigantic. No volcano could ever completely cover them in ash, but a big flood could easily tear them down or uproot them. Scientists estimate the biggest ocean waves during floods to have been over a few miles high. Just less than 100 years ago, in 1958, a 1,700 feet wave hit Alaska. What about waves during cosmic impacts or glacier melting periods? These could easily reach a few miles. The sad thing is, big trees are gone. Even if they somehow miraculously survived and we coexisted at some point, we would have cut them all down. In the 19th century, logging competitions took the whole of Canada, Oregon, Washington, and many other states. As quickly as we cut down all the giant trees and bragged about it. The same would have happened if we had coexisted with the even bigger ancient trees. We would watch them fall and yell timber. This is the reason why some of the currently largest trees on Earth are kept secret. Their locations aren't public knowledge. A most recent example of discovered preserved ancient trees is a mummified forest found in Hungary. It was discovered in 2007 in an old mine. 60 meters underground, the miners found trees as old as 8 million years old that were not yet fossilized. They were somehow preserved under the sand like mummies.
8 million years old.
This alone proves that just 8 million years ago, the trees were a lot bigger than they currently are. Because in modern day Hungary, there aren't many trees that have a diameter of 3 meters or over that. And at this location, there were over a dozen large trees found. So what's the verdict on this one? Can we conclude with 100% certainty that giant trees with heights of over several miles existed? Well, the Devil's Tower is the most studied supposed petrified stump. Scientists believe it to be a geological phenomena formed from volcanic activity. They think lava intruded into sedimentary layers and cooled into hexagonal pillars. However, many studies show that the pillars are not solely hexagonal, but also include shapes with 5 or 4 sides. The surrounding sediments are softer and more prone to weathering than the core of Devil's Tower. This suggests the structure weathered out exactly like a fossil tree stump, and not like a lava formation. But let's analyze the minerals. Despite the hexagonal pattern being common in basalts, Devil's Tower is composed of phonolite, a rock rich in feldspar and pyroxene. It also consists of magnetite, but these are not typically associated with true fossils. The geological and mineralogical evidence challenges the petrified tree hypothesis. The formation's origin is still debated, with no clear evidence whether it is a fossil or a sediment. The local Kiowa Indians refer to it as tree rock, but the exact nature of Devil's Tower remains a mystery. We don't know. For me, that's good enough. I make these videos to prove we don't know a lot, and when it comes to our origins and our planet, it is good to be full of doubt. Something else I doubt is what lies in the center of our planet. That's why I researched for months and I calculated that Earth might not have a molten core, but instead an inner sun that is surrounded by a hollow cavity, and people live down there. Explore the hollow Earth theory with me in the next video.
Ooh, hollow Earth. Oh, we're in a hole. Yeah, sorry. I actually did tip my toes in that before the flat Earth. It just was illogical to me. How can he believe in the heliocentric model and then because there's a mini sun in there, that's what gives us the gravitation. It's silly. But I thought that video was gravy. Did y'all enjoy that? I especially like the
that was
about
good.
the ancient tree.
And I didn't know. I didn't realize that a lot of them are in preserved areas where you can't go. You know, you can go visit, but you can't do any construction. You can't do any mining, because I have a theory that the roots of these giant trees are our coal, our diamonds, our oil, our fossil. That's our real fossil fuels. They're fossilized tree roots. You know what I'm saying?
They are in veins. They're found
And
in
they're in veins. That's another thing. And it would make sense that they're in a lot of preserved areas because they don't want us mining there. They want to save that for, when they build their utopia.
So I think that's a perfect time to switch over to here. So here we go. So this is, I'm just using Grablopedia, but this is called phytomining. Okay, so phytomining, sometimes called agromining, is the concept of extracting heavy metals from the soil using plants. Specifically, phytomining is for the purpose of economic gain. The approach exploits the existence of hyperaccumulators, proteins or compounds secreted by plants to bind certain metal ions. These extracted ores are called bioores. The approach has little practical value. Its commercially viability is limited because it's slow and ineffective. And it says phytomining was first proposed in 1983 by Rufus Caney, a USDA agronomist. He and Alan Baker, a University of Melbourne professor, first tested in 1996. They, as well as J. Scott Engel and Yingming Li, filed a patent of the process in 1995, which expired in 2015. Phytomining would, in principle, cause minimal environmental effects compared to mining. Phytomining could also remove low-grade heavy metals from mine waste. Okay, so nothing new under the sun, guys. And it's showing you here uptake of heavy metals by phytoextraction. So you have gold and different minerals that are in the soil that are then absorbed. Now, what Kyle and what Frankie were just talking about is veins. Now they're saying it's coming up, it's pulling up into the leaves, which I'm not saying it wouldn't, but it would also accumulate in portions that it didn't send up there yet, right? So these also look like how gold or iron or different minerals accumulate within the ground. Very interesting, right? And this is a from the National Library of Medicine. Again, we're not doctors. We're just people talking about things that we enjoy and giving our opinions. Please look into these things yourselves. We are not saying these things as fact.
Wouldn't that be why they call it iron ore?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Let me read this real quick. So phytomining of rare earth elements. It says the increased demand for rare earth elements for modern industry has led to a surge in mining activities and consequently has released these metals into the environment. Intensifying this in a habitat has impacts on its ecosystem, but on the other side, it also provides the opportunity to recover them from low-grade minerals. Phytomining has emerged as an ecological sound unique to extract these valuable elements from the contaminated soil where traditional mining is not competitive. These papers present and review the conception of this phytomining from the three scientific areas. The accumulation of rare earth metals in plants is the first stage, referred to as the phytoextraction process. This is followed by elevating the rare earth elements concentrations into bio-ores via the enrichment phase. Ultimately, extraction is the final step to complete the phytomining pathway for reclaiming the rare earth elements in the brownfield land. And so yeah, there's a whole bunch of different papers and people that talk about this thing right now. And so the reason why I bring that up is because if this is a possibility with, a slight possibility with our modern technology, we think about what they were doing during the pre-flood, that they had these technologies. So I think this is proof positive of what you two were mentioning, that these would also accumulated heavy metals. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I think a lot of our coal comes from that because, yeah, when a branch rots, it becomes black, and that it has that kind of like gooey, kind of like tarry kind of feeling. So I'm thinking the roots are your coal. They solidify in the oil. And the deeper and the older ones turn more into metal and your iron ore, or possibly, so they say that if coal pressurizes, it becomes diamonds. It could also be your diamonds too. You know what I mean? And all those things are found in veins.
Yep, and they literally are like an organic thing stretching out through the soil. All right, let's just watch this last
Hold on
video.
for 1 second.
Oh, okay.
I like what he said about Silicon Valley, how he compared that to the older. I never thought of that. Why they call it Silicon Valley, and they're mining there, and they're getting all the metals for our gadgets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And the fact that they need quartz crystal, right? And we know that's only found in caves. And
right.
Those caves, like that video showed, mirror image the way that veins or root systems would grow. Okay, let's watch this little video about the phyto mining and hyper accumulators. And then we're not going to watch all this, but and we're going to skip the intro, but check this out.
Anthony von der Ent is studying hyperaccumulator plants at the University of Queensland. So what is a hyperaccumulator plant?
So a hyperaccumulator plant is a plant that is able to concentrate very high concentrations of a specific element, say nickel or zinc or manganese, into its living shoots and leaves. So hyperaccumulators have evolved very specific mechanisms to avoid toxicity that affects normal plants like crops.
Anthony's trekked around the globe exploring heavy metal hotspots. What was it like visiting New Caledonia?
Well, for anyone who likes plants, New Caledonia is the place to be, really. It has over 3,000 plant species on the island, of which more than 90% is endemic. Perhaps the most spectacular hyperaccumulator in the world is a tree called Pichinendra acuminata, which is a large tree, up to 30 meters. And it has a sap latex that is blue-green in color and has up to 25% nickel in it. So it's perhaps the most metallic tree or plant known in the world. And it's extremely rare and it occurs in rainforests in New Caledonia. And there's also a tree in Borneo that we've discovered that has 20% nickel in its sap, and it is a translucent green color, and it's really extreme as well.
So in a way, the geology of a landscape determines the plants that can live there.
Absolutely, yeah. And hyperaccumulators are generally rare because they are restricted to such outcrops of mineralized soils.
So would it be true to say that these sort of plants occur in places which are ideal for mining as well?
Precisely, yeah. So hyperaccumulator plants grow in mining targets that are rich in...
Think about that. He's saying, so these are natural plants. These aren't genetically modified plants that we're talking about yet, okay? These are plants that are called hyperaccumulators. They grow near mining places there. Frankie, did you hear that, brother? Thoughts?
Yeah, because you know why they grow there? Because the soil's rich, and the old roots and the old and from the old trees, there's nutrients for them plants to grow there. And that's probably why there's so, because you ever see around a tree there's always weeds, there's always foliage, there's always like other plant life growing around trees. I just did my backyard today, and some of the weeds have grown into giant weed trees that I'm going to probably have to get cut down. I was cutting branches and weeds and all, but there's like there's like 3 or 4 big trees, and then there's these weed trees that the weeds they let them go so long that they turned into trees. You know what I mean? The trunks of them are that thick because they were left alone and they just grew and grew over the years. Yeah, so whenever there's trees, there's always other plant life around it. That's the point. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful sync there. All right, let's keep chugging.
Metals.
It's not only overseas these plants are found, Australia has its share of hyperaccumulators. So what do we have in here?
So a whole collection of Australian native hyperaccumulator plants.
These look like legumes to me.
They are. So this is a Neptunia, which is a legume. It hyperaccumulates selenium. And then behind me we have a plant that hyperaccumulates manganese and cobalt. It's called Gossia. And over here we got a species called Crotalaria from central Queensland, which accumulates zinc.
And they're standing in saucers, which stops anything running out.
That's right, yeah. So we don't want to lose the metal that we dose to them. So we have solutions, in this case of zinc. So there's 100 ppm or milligrams per liter in here, which we add to the saucers incrementally. So to expose the plant to, in this case, zinc.
So you know that they accumulate certain heavy metals. What is the purpose of that knowledge?
So this particular species comes from around Dougal River in central Queensland, and it grows on zinc outcrops. So the idea being is that we grow these plants on the waste of the mine, where they could stabilize the surface, but at the same time accumulate zinc that is residual in that waste.
So they have another purpose other than stabilizing the soil.
Yeah.
And how could you see this being applied?
It's a process we call phytomining, in which we essentially use these what we call metal crops. So crops that accumulate metal, and we periodically harvest these. They will resprout back to perennial plants, and that biomass we can then process to extract zinc in this case.
So in terms of the maturity of this research, where do we stand?
We're pretty much at the start. So Australia is extremely biodiverse, over 20,000 plant species.
Hey Vader,
we
hold
only
on
know
for a
of a
second.
handful of hyperaccumulator plants.
And some of these plants are actually quite...
Go ahead, brother. Sorry about that.
Yeah, like earlier in the video, he said that in the sap they were finding nickel. You remember that?
Uh-huh.
So if they're finding precious metals in the sap of these trees, then the precious metals we have could be from the root systems of the giant trees.
Totally. I totally agree.
And I think that's where he's going with this. But he ain't going to say giant trees, but we are.
Yeah. No, yeah, he's not. and again, right, nothing new under the sun. So if we're showing that that's possible now, what was possible then? Did they take these, you know, organic trees that did this, GMO it to, you know, to be bigger and etc. So let's finish off this video. We're gonna go back
Well,
to
they
some
might
more
have
examples. Oh, go ahead.
It was well, that's where alchemy comes into play, because alchemy, they used to they knew how to make gold out of alchemy, and so they probably refined in the old day, you know, before the flood, refined the trees to make the metals, because there might not have been any metals available, so they might have had a formula to make them from the sap of the tree. Does that make any sense or no?
Oh yeah, no, that makes total sense. I totally get where you're going there. All right, let's finish this off, and then we'll get to the rest of the
Cool.
videos.
Rare in the wild.
Yes, a lot of the hyperaccumulators only grow at an outcrop where the soils are particularly high in a particular metal, like nickel or zinc or copper. And you would only find them on that outcrop. So many species of hyperaccumulators are hyperendemics, so they only occur on one location.
That sounds really difficult for that plant, because the only place that they grow is the most desirable place to mine as well.
Exactly, so that's a conflict there. So for us, it's often, I guess, a race between mining companies wanting to mine a surface outcrop of a metal, and us trying to find these hyperaccumulator plants and try to save some seeds or some plants that we dig out and to keep them, basically.
So what species have you got here?
So there's two species here. One is heartleaf poison, which is this pretty one with orange flowers, Gastrolobium bilobum. And the other one is Gastrolobium parvifolium, which is the one with the narrow leaves here.
Now these accumulate fluorine, which makes them really poisonous.
Correct, yeah. So these accumulate fluoride in the leaves, and they make fluoroacetate, which is a metabolic poison.
And would that be, those little droplets there, would they be droplets of poison?
Yes, that contains fluoride. There's little droplets that the plant excretes.
YouTube, the scientist said it, not me. Don't be
It's
getting
funny how
me
they put
in.
fluoride in our water.
Hey, wait, no, wait, don't go that far. Don't be getting mad at me because scientists said that. I did not say that. Frankie
right.
B didn't say it. The
I didn't
scientist
say
said
it.
it.
And are these seedlings of Gastrolobium? Because that looks like sandplain soil from WA as
Exactly,
well.
yeah. So that's the natural type of soil they grow in, and these are some of the seedlings that we're trying to germinate. So then in these trays, we dose fluoride in solution at different levels to look at the amount of uptake of fluoride into the plants.
So what is the object of growing these plants here?
So fluoride can be an issue in some types of wastewater, say from the coal industry or from other industries. So
Again,
That's why you put it in the water.
Again, YouTube. We are not saying anything. He's saying it. He is a scientist. Go talk to him.
So some types of wastewater contain fluoride, which is undesired as a pollutant. So the thinking is that we could cultivate these plants to extract the fluoride from that wastewater as a means of remediating contaminated water.
There's a strong case for preserving these sorts of plants.
Yes, I think so. Hyperaccumulator plants, if you identify them, they are valuable resources that can then be used in rehabilitation of mining sites or other contaminated areas.
What do you think the future holds for you and this kind of research?
I'm hoping that we can upscale what we're doing. So a lot of it, of our work is in the lab scale or small applications in the field. But I would really like to see full-scale application of phytomining happening in Australia.
All right, so that's it for that video. Yeah, so I think right there is another piece of evidence that kind of shows you that what we're kind of speculating on may not be too far off, you know, from the truth. All right, this is going to be some more
Hey, I got a theory. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
You know how Australia has all kinds of indigenous bugs. They have all kinds of metals. They're mining for gold there. They're mining for this. They're mining for that. What if Australia was just a giant tree? I mean, like a super giant tree. And after the floodwaters receded, it became as big as a landmass.
Who knows? We're looking at some giant trees that would been I guess then on or inside that other giant tree, but who knows? It's definitely fun to speculate.
Yeah, I mean, because they're finding. I mean, if you ever watch the show Gold Rush, he went to Australia trying to secure a mine so he could gold there, so he could mine there.
Yeah, they have a lot of unique things there for sure. So who knows?
And they have all kinds of crazy bugs, snakes, tarantulas, spiders, all kinds of crazy stuff down there.
Will be the final
Right,
video within this playlist either permanently or it's just going to be left alone for some time. Can't really do much more. Putting it out people in the pre-flood world, like giants. Well, if that's the case, they must have been a lot bigger than what we can imagine. Yes, when you look at some of the size of this stuff, it's either giant beings, our creator. I've had a feeling personally for quite some time that either the Great Flood or some event prior to that flooded the entire Earth and then froze over, because I've always denied the Ice Age. That maybe there was some type of Ice Age, there was a Great Flood and it completely froze across the entire world. And all these, what they call mesas, these flat tops, have not been caused by them being cut down. It's literally where the ice, everything below the ice petrified. And as everything died due to there being seawater everywhere, salt water, you see that doesn't work out because, I say that all sand has been created from the petrification of these trees, or the original tree. All sand, all lime, everything has all come from calcification, petrification, and everything I speak about is everything that has come from a tree. Because if you want to believe the mainstream scientific view on this, that it's all earth tectonics being caused by some kind of comet hitting the earth, when it looks exactly the same as your wooden flooring. If you buy laminate flooring, the pattern that's on the screen is exactly what you would get.
How dare you! How dare you!
Let me back it up real quick. I wanna. Haven't y'all ever wondered and been in these places? Now, yeah, of course, that totally looks similar, right? But what else? Where else did these big rocks come from? Like, what else could these possibly be? Where did these big rocks in the middle of the forest come from? Did they roll all the way down and they stopped like that? And then, like, I don't know what the explanation for where these things came from in the first place. Any thoughts about that? All right, no worries.
Now that's a good thought, because you see them all over, like when you go into the forest.
Yeah, like how did they get all the way there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know how like pieces of bark break off of a tree? It would be like pieces of, and it would be like stone, or like that dude was saying, cut down trees and just left, or falling down trunks, and they turned into stone formation.
Yo, dude, it's like you're spitting bars as you talk.
What do you mean?
The music, and then you're like,
oh yeah,
spitting bars,
yeah.
telling
How
truth.
dare you? That he was like rapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was rapping when he was doing "How Dare You."
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. That's all. Yeah, that's all like. It's all bark, man, and you can see it. What you see, you can't understand.
Yeah, it is very interesting how similar, like, okay, let's even say it's not the same. You can know it for sure they look similar at the very least. And that right there, and then the other examples of what, you know, like the scientific examples of what they say they are, it makes it even more sus that it's not what they say it is, more something along of what it looks like. Welcome Highway Hermit brother, good to see you, hope you're doing well. But let's keep checking along with this video. That's insane right there. Dude, that right there 100% looks like a log that you have sitting in your pile from the side.
Yeah,
It does, definitely.
For sure, yeah. It's just got all the little twists and the bends, and if you try to make an explanation for that, like they'll tell you, oh, that was all just separate layers laying flat, and whatever happened, pushed it up here and pressed it down here and made it form all these little swirls, and yeah, no, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's really easy to just reverse engineer how this quote unquote would have happened. That they do that literally with everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how they can lie anymore. I mean, they're just running out of lies. You know?
Yeah, people are waking up, so you know, but they always
Yeah, really.
Yeah, but then it's always like people start waking up, they gotta change it up, they gotta change the world up. But you know, again, no need to fear. Greater is He who is in us than who
But
is
don't
in the
look
world.
there. Look over here. We got aliens.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's keep chugging. I just think this is really good to show because it's so many examples of like really thinking about it and looking at it, and it totally looks like it. You have to at least admit that the similarities are indeed there. And I think that is, very similar to the true Earth, where there's a preponderance of evidence. We're looking over and over, picture to picture, and seeing basically something from small scale to big scale. You wouldn't know the difference if someone told you it was wood and then said, nope, it's rock. That's so interesting. Okay, so I'm not gonna play this whole thing. We're coming up to the end of the stream, not right now, but we got about not too much time left. That's crazy. That's crazy. So yeah, example after example after example, we have all of these formations that totally look like stone, totally look mountains of coal, right? All these sections, they're all so interesting, right? They have these same formations, and you see it just over and over and over. These very
That one, there was one you had right there that looked like a pit of a, yeah, right there. These geodes almost seem like the fruit of
knots. Or I was
yeah,
almost gonna say that not like the inside knots, but you're totally right.
Hey, you know what? We have a boulder field in Pennsylvania. Oh, I'm sorry, Kyle. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I'll talk after you.
No, sorry,
Yeah, we have a boulder field in Pennsylvania. What if, like, you showed the boulders before? What if the boulders are seed, dried up seed that turned into rock?
Yeah, see, we don't know. There's so many, dude. That's crazy looking.
That's wild. Look at that.
Yeah. So
sorry for interrupting.
No. Oh.
No, it's all good. It's all correlated. I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking the geodes that they cut into, that they find
kind of
at
look
the
like
bottoms of
avocados.
the yeah.
Yeah.
They have the layers like the seed, the meat, and the skin. It's strange.
Hey, they actually could be avocado seeds. We don't know.
We don't know.
This is a quick 6-minute video.
So looking at the root structures of trees, you've got the primary, central roots are going to go down, and then you've got the 360 circumference around the base of the tree, which are going to go out horizontally, and they're going to shoot down, root structures as well. And then we'll get into collateral arteries, which is something it's an anatomical term, which I'll talk about. But these can connect to each other. And as we get into the main topic, this is called spelunking titanic trees. You'll see why the collateral arteries are of interest. All right, and so looking at these tepues or the plateaus, this is Devil's Tower. And loads of mountain ranges that look like hollowed out trunks. And there's lots of channels showing this, and Instagram and Pinterest, and lots of people are fascinated by this. And I don't blame mountain ranges that look like hollowed out trunks.
Okay, right here. Look at this. Look at the other mountains next to it, and then look at those formations. Right? One does not match the other.
Look like the other. What is the square? Yeah.
So that is a really good point of showing, look, there's a difference. They don't look the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say that's a perfect picture to be like, okay, see, that's mountains, but that one in front, that one's really, really suspect eh, because the mountains in the background obviously don't look like that.
Yep. Yep. Makes no sense. All right, let's keep checking.
There's a
And
lot
there's
of
lots
formation.
of channels showing this, and Instagram and Pinterest, and lots of people are fascinated by this, and I don't blame them. It's very fascinating. It's hard to imagine how something like that is going to form through tectonic activity. In the case of basalt, like the Devil's Tower, they're saying that is cooling lava, and this is one of these tabletop mountains. Another, and some of them just look like fractured tree trunks, or parts of trees that have broken off. And when you get up close, you can see the grain, and you can see how it's all deteriorating and eroding here and just turning to sand. So if these great trees were a thing and they somehow got hit by some kind of a major technology and were destroyed, it's not hard to imagine things like the Sahara Desert existing if they're breaking down to sand, as Ben alluded to in that video. And this is a really fascinating thing here also, that a lot of these tabletop mountains around the world, they've got these waterfalls, these water sources, and it's not like there's lots of rainfall that's accumulating here that's causing this just perpetual fountain, right? This is coming from deep in the ground. And I believe the terminology that they use for this is artesian wells, that they're coming up from deep underground sources.
They're artesian wells.
And so you get lots of these examples of these tabletop mountains with water sources, and it's not hard, I think, if you just look at this objectively, to imagine that this could have been a tree at some point. It's harder for me to imagine tectonic activity causing something like this, because it's just going to jut upward, and all of the lines are going to be parallel to the ground. It doesn't really make sense to me. Yeah, so different examples of this, and here this, very much looks like root structure. Is this just erosion, or is this the remains of the roots of the tree? It's hard, it's hard to say for certain. You'd have to get on the ground and do some investigation, and who knows, it might.
And it's not like they would just let you do that. They wouldn't let you just like, hey, we just want to dig up this whole area just to see what this hill is made out of. Like this beautiful landmark area. Can we just dig in this area to see what's up? No, you can't just investigate it like that. Oh, sweet. Yeah, this is a good video. I really liked this part because I think that goes more to what we were kind of saying about if you genetically modified one of these hyper accumulative plants to absorb gold or whatever. Think about how these look like caves. These look like veins that are found within mines. It's very, very interesting in my opinion, for sure. Okay, so we only have about 8 minutes left. So
How dare you?
There's just too much. That picture, man, that's just so intense. Okay, that's more of this part. We kind of already saw that. Oops, wrong thing. Okay, oh, dude, did I close that one? That makes me so sad. I wanted to finish off with that. I wanted to finish off with that very last one. Oh, let's read this real quick. Daniel 4:20. 4:20, bro. The trees you saw that grew so large and sturdy, with its tops touching the sky, visible from the four corners of the world, the trees with the luxurious foliage and abundant fruit, enough for everyone, the tree under which animals took cover and in which birds built nests. You, O kings, are that our tree. You have I'm not gonna. Okay. You have grown great and strong. Your royal majesty reaches sky, and your sovereignty reaches to the four corners of the world. Now, people say, okay, that's metaphorical, but I also think it's metaphorical because it's a true statement. When you make like a simile or like a like or as an example, you're using something that's true, something that you can kind of call to. As an example, so he's saying like those trees that reach their sky, their tops reach the sky, like you have grown great and strong. Your royal majesty reaches sky high. So yeah, that's not an issue to me personally, but I really wanted to find that. Was it this one?
Hey, these spectacular.
Okay, yeah. Let's finish this off. Right here.
Carbon dioxide, water, and other hidden information we can't detect with our senses through their root systems. If you've ever been in a room with tons of large quartz, amethyst, etc., you know that the energy is powerful. Crystals have been known to store information, and this is why they oftentimes require energetic cleansing. Imagine what kind of information and energy was circulating among this worldwide system of trees powered by the same material. And we're told that quartz is a rock-forming mineral. Now, this definitely makes sense. So think about it. How can a cave be constructed naturally out of the ground? We're given the bullshit answer that limestone gets dissolved over time and forms caves. But again, these systems are all too similar to that of a root system. Most rivers used to be filled with these roots as well. The rivers contained the above-ground roots, while the caves in part contained the below-ground roots. Just some speculation. Look at these photos of giant crystals inside of cave systems. This is insane. I'm proposing all of these giant root systems used to contain as many of these crystals, but were stripped of them and are now lifeless. I mean, just look at some of the caves without crystals. To me, they appear stripped. They look dead. An uprooted tree shows small roots in various sizes hanging from the bottom. Stalactites and stalagmites are very similar to this. Again, keep in mind these trees were enormous and way sturdier, made of thicker material. So somebody has harvested these minerals and crystals. Where petrified wood is, we see sand. Petrified wood is made of precious gems and crystalline structures. When we compare this wood to the floors and sides of mountains, we see the similar gradient patterns. Pieces of petrified wood are pieces of these ancient trees. In these inland areas with large amounts of sand and in deserts, there's no access to the ocean, so the sand isn't coming from there. And what is this sand made of? Sand in inland areas are made of mostly silica and other materials, including forms of quartz. When a regular tree is cut down, dust flies. It starts covering the ground. I think you know what I'm getting at. Inland sand and deserts are not naturally forming, but were made from bits of silica and minerals that flew off of these organisms as they were cut down. As Vlad Hangen pointed out, some of the ancient Toltec pottery suggests that what's being depicted aren't merely crocodiles, but the quarry excavators used to get rid of these trees, that we still use to this day. The ancient people probably saw these monstrosities and assume they were animals rather than man-made technology. Mount Meru is the magnetic mountain that lies at the center of our plain at the Arctic. The Tree of Life used to stand at the center, and it was cut down. As we know, mountains are tree stumps. It's said that the Tree of Life was encased in Mount Meru, but I'm speculating that Mount Meru is the remnants of the Tree of Life.
So I think that definitely that last part is kind of highly speculative. We can't verify that Mount Meru is there. Now, it is in cultures and it is talked about, so I'm not denying that is a possibility. But again, it's something he kind of...
Where did he say Mount Meru was?
In the center.
In the North Pole?
Yeah, basically.
All right.
But yeah, sweet. All right, let's go ahead and drop this. It is time to call it a stream. So we'll just go through one by one and say our goodbyes for the night and call it a stream. So let's start with you, Frankie B. Or wait, turn on your cameras and then I'll tell you who first. I think it's going to be Robert first. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. So we'll go with you, Robert. If you tell us kind of your final thoughts about the topic we talked about tonight and your goodbyes. You're muted. You're muted on Discord. It's okay. We all got problems.
Sorry. Certainly is fascinating looking at all that stuff. Yeah, Teresa and I have done spelunking, gone into caves. Very interesting for sure. To think of those caves, at least some of that stuff could be partially left over from tree roots. I don't know. Interesting. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting though that like you can totally tell a difference from a natural cave from a mined cave? Like the whole feel of it, the whole look of it, it's completely different. Sometimes you'll go in from a natural cave into a part where they're mining and it's complete, the walls look different, the structure looks different.
Right, it's totally organic in the natural one. Whereas you definitely can see where it's been milled or cut or whatever, the chiseled, however they cut through to make a opening.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you'd like to say goodbye to the folks.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Awesome. And we'll jump over to our A3O Creations. Kyle, what's your final thoughts about this topic? And yeah, I want to hear it.
Yeah, it's pretty compelling. I've always been fascinated with it since I heard of it. I I guess because I don't really have any real expertise in that field, geology and studying rocks, I can't really make like super definitive statements, but I'll say from the side of like mythology and other cultures that talk about giant trees, the things that are mentioned in scripture that kind of refer to it, as well as just the physical evidence we were looking at today for all sorts of different aspects of how they could have possibly existed, and how their roots, may have been for or modern day caves may be, from their root systems, and yeah, there's a lot to it that they're probably hiding, and it's hard to, like I said, make definitive statements on it, but I'm compelled enough to say it's very, very possible, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was another, aspect of the creation that they were hiding from us.
Yeah, absolutely. You made such so many great points there. And yeah, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. But like Robert said, it's a fun, interesting topic to talk about, right? And I think that's kind of a good, little layoff of some of the kind of the darker, harder topics we have been talking about. And I do think it's very compelling. Again, it doesn't matter one way or the other. I think it would just be another lie that they gave us.
Also, it'd be super cool if it was true.
Yeah, so cool for so many different reasons. I totally agree with that too. Sweet. All right, Frankie B. What's your thoughts? What's your final conclusions? And your goodbyes, Kyle. Sorry, and then Frankie B's final thoughts.
Oh yeah. Everyone, have a good night, and I will catch you on the next one. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, brother. Frankie B, final thoughts and goodbyes?
Yeah, that was a fun topic. I mean, it's just something interesting to dig into. It's another piece of the puzzle. Something cool to look into. There's a lot of research on YouTube about it. And I think we came up with a lot of good theories behind it. And yeah, it was a fun topic. I like nights like this, and the 2 hours went by really quick too, didn't it?
Yeah, it totally did. And the videos that we had, like, I feel like really nailed and like I said, sync, because I didn't from the ideas you had, and I looked up a few things for sure, and I watched some of the videos, but I didn't know that the syncs that y'all would bring into the videos that I found. So that's always cool. Well, sweet.
And it just gives more confirmation to the creation that model. That we're not created from a big bang. Mm-hmm. We're created from a big tree.
it's a more magical place, right? Like, not it's a more magical place than we think. Truth is stranger in fiction. Shout out Will. But sweet. Well, thanks for
everyone. Don't forget to dig deep and enjoy the song at the end of the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, later.
And thanks for giving us the idea for the topic, right? Shout out to you for that.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, Highway Hermit is here, brother. If you'd like to say goodbyes, we'd love to hear from you. If not, we can go ahead and wrap up the show. So I'll give you a second to do so, and then if not, we'll just keep chugging.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed the stream. I think it's perfectly logical, if there were giant animals and giant plants, then giant trees is, perfectly in line with that. And there is plenty of evidence out there. I mean, I love all the imagery, and it lines up. I really like that stuff. So thanks for the stream.
Yeah, no, our pleasure, brother. And one thing I'd like to kind of add to that is, if they were genetically, manipulating stuff like chimeras, etc., and we know they did that with like humans, etc., why wouldn't they do that to plants? Why wouldn't they take the what we were showing, the hyper accumulators, and put these big trees there to mine all that gold, right? And there's so many interesting kind of things ideas that can come from that. And I totally agree that it was definitely fun. Well, sweet. All right, guys. Well, that was a really fun stream. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. The channel is slowly creeping up there and growing, so we appreciate to all the new subscribers. Again, we have oh my god, I can't believe it, guys. I skipped because of yesterday, I totally skipped my normal housekeeping. I can't believe that. Shout out Take on the World. Check out all the links in the description below.
How dare you!
If you're interested in joining the community or supporting the channel. And let Sean know that we want a creator code so that we can start posting on Lighthouse. That would be awesome if we were able to transition over there and not have to deal with Grabbler Tube. So if that would be a possibility, brother, please and thank you. That would be amazing. But yeah, until next time, guys, remember that Abba loved you first. Good night, everybody.
Your glory, conceal the mystery. You give us the honor to search a matter. You raise up a standard.